If you're a mother, and you leave your child with a housemaid, nanny, or anyone else when you go to work, this video is for you. Because a mother in Lagos trusted her housemaid completely. For 8 months, everything seemed perfect. Until one Tuesday afternoon, she came home early. What she discovered in her own living room changed everything. And the worst part, her children had been trying to tell her, but she almost didn't listen. This is the Vigilant Parent. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you how to truly monitor what's happening in your home when you're not there. The warning signs your children are giving you that you might be missing. And the 7 rules that will protect your family starting today. If you're a mother who works, who has help at home, who leaves your children with someone you trust, this video could change everything. Subscribe. Turn on notifications. And let's begin. Quick question. Do you have someone taking care of your child when you're at work? Comment yes or no below. Because what I'm about to teach you works whether you have a housemaid now, or you're planning to hire one soon. Now, let me tell you what happened.
Mrs. Maureen Sunday, 34 years old. A successful event planner in Lekki, Lagos. Married to Mr. Henry Sunday, a banker. They have 2 beautiful children, Favor, age 7, and Junior, age 4. Like thousands of Nigerian parents, Maureen and Henry both work demanding jobs. They leave home at 7 a.m., sometimes don't return until 7 p.m. They needed help. They needed someone trustworthy to take care of their children. Blessing Juliet, 26 years old. From Enugu State. She came with a reference letter from a family in Victoria Island. The previous employer said Blessing was responsible, respectful, and great with children. Maureen interviewed Blessing twice. She seemed perfect. Soft-spoken. Polite. She smiled when she talked about children. She said she came from a large family and had helped raise her younger siblings. I will take care of your children like they are my own, Blessing promised. And for the first 8 months, she did. Or so it seemed. Favor's homework was always done. Junior was always bathed and fed. The house was clean. Dinner was ready when Maureen came home. Blessing never complained, never asked for advances on her salary, never caused any drama. Maureen even told her friends, I finally found a good housemaid. I'm so lucky. But you know what they say, the calmest waters hide the deeper secrets. The first sign that something was wrong came on a Tuesday evening. Maureen was putting Favor to bed, reading her a bedtime story, when Favor suddenly asked a question that made Maureen's hand freeze on the page. Mommy, who is that uncle that always comes to our house? Is he Daddy's friend? Maureen looked up from the book slowly. Her heart skipped a beat. Uncle? What uncle, Favor? What are you talking about? The one who comes when you and Daddy go to work. He sits in the parlor and watches TV. Maureen felt a cold sensation crawl up her spine. Favor, what does this uncle look like? Favor shrugged, her eyes still innocent, not understanding why her mother's voice had changed. I don't know. He's just there sometimes. He and Auntie Blessing talk. Does he talk to you? Does he come near you? Sometimes he says hello. But Auntie Blessing says we should play in our room when he's there. Maureen's mind was racing. Who was this person? Why was there someone in her house that she didn't know about? And why were her children being told to stay in their room? She tried to keep her voice calm. How many times has this uncle come, Favor? I don't know, Mommy. Many times. He comes and goes. And you've never told Mommy about him before? Favor looked down at her blanket. Auntie Blessing said not to bother you about visitors. She said it's not important. Those words. Not important. Someone had been teaching her 7-year-old daughter to keep secrets. Maureen barely slept at night. The next morning, before leaving for work, she called Blessing into the kitchen while the children were getting dressed. Blessing, Favor mentioned something interesting yesterday. She said there's an uncle who visits the house sometimes. For just a fraction of a second, less than a heartbeat, Blessing's face went completely blank. That microsecond of panic before the brain constructs the lie. Then her expression shifted to confusion. Uncle, Ma. I don't understand. Which uncle? That's what I'm asking you. Favor said someone comes to the house when we're at work. A man. Blessing shook her head, her face now the picture of innocence. No, Ma. Nobody comes here. I don't know what she's talking about. You know how children are, they imagine things, they confuse things. Maybe she's talking about the DSTV man who came to fix the decoder last month. Maureen wanted to believe that explanation. It was logical. Children do confuse things. Maybe Favor had seen a repairman or delivery person and created a story around it. Are you sure, Blessing? Because this is very important. Nobody should be coming into this house when I'm not here. Do you understand? Yes, Ma. I understand perfectly, Ma. Nobody comes here. I promise you. The lie was so smooth. So practiced. So convincing. Maureen nodded. Okay. But I'm making this very clear. No visitors. No friends. No family members. Nobody. Is that understood? Yes, Ma. Absolutely, Ma. Maureen left for work that morning feeling unsettled. Something about that conversation didn't sit right. But she had a client meeting, a venue to inspect, a wedding to plan. She pushed the thought aside. She shouldn't have. Now, what Maureen didn't know, what she couldn't know yet, was that at that very moment, as she was driving to her meeting, Blessing was making a phone call. A phone call to tell someone, she's asking questions. We need to be more careful. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Because what happened over the next few days, that's when this story goes from concerning to absolutely terrifying. And it all started with little Junior, the 4-year-old, who said something at dinner that made Maureen's blood run cold. 3 days passed after that conversation with Blessing. Maureen watched her more carefully. She asked the children subtle questions. But everything seemed normal. Maybe she had overreacted. Maybe Favor really had been confused. But then came Friday evening. The family was having dinner together, a rare occurrence because Maureen had finished work early. They were eating jollof rice, talking about their day, when little Junior said something that made everyone at the table go silent. Mommy, why doesn't that brother ever eat with us? Maureen put down her fork. Which brother, Junior? The one who comes to the house. He only eats when you're not home. Maureen's husband looked at his wife. What's he talking about? Before Maureen could respond, Favor chimed in, the uncle I told Mommy about. The one who watches TV in the parlor. Junior nodded enthusiastically, happy that his sister understood. Yes. That one. Today he ate Indomie with us. Today. He was there today. Just hours ago. Maureen felt like the room was spinning. Junior, baby, where was Auntie Blessing when this uncle was eating Indomie? She was making it for him. In the kitchen. And what did this uncle do while he was eating? He was watching TV. He watches TV every time. And sometimes he talks on the phone really loud. Favor added, almost casually, and he wears a big chain around his neck. Like the ones in music videos. Henry stood up from the table. Maureen, what is going on? Who are they talking about? I don't know. I asked Blessing about this earlier this week. She said nobody comes to the house. She said Favor was imagining things. She lied. Maureen felt sick. Her children had been giving her clues. They had been trying to tell her. and she had almost dismissed it. Favor, Junior, come here. She pulled both children close. Listen to me very carefully. This uncle, has he ever touched you? Has he ever done anything that made you feel uncomfortable or scared? Both children shook their heads. Has he ever asked you to keep secrets? Favor nodded. Auntie Blessing always says not to tell you when he comes. She says you'll be upset with her. There it was again. Secret keeping. Manipulation. Lies. Henry's voice was low and dangerous. Where's Blessing now? She's in her room, sir, Favor said quietly. Tell her to come here. Now. When Blessing walked into the dining room, she must have sensed something was wrong. The air was thick with tension. You wanted to see me, Ma? Maureen's voice was shaking, not from fear, but from barely contained rage. Blessing, I'm going to ask you one more time, and I need you to tell me the truth. Has anyone been coming to this house when we're not home? Blessing's eyes darted to the children, then back to Maureen. No, Ma. Like I told you before. The children just told us everything. Henry's voice boomed through the room. Stop lying. Blessing's face crumbled. The mask fell away. And what Maureen saw underneath was not remorse, it was calculation. Blessing was trying to figure out how much the children had said, how much she could still deny. Ma, sir. I can explain. Explain what? That you've been bringing strange men into our home. Around our children. While we're working to pay your salary. It's not like that. Then what is it like? Maureen stood up, her whole body trembling. Who is this person? How long has this been going on? And why did you lie to my face when I asked you directly? Blessing started crying. But Maureen had seen enough tears in her line of work to know real ones from manipulative ones. Ma, please, he's just my boyfriend. He gets bored at home, so sometimes he comes to keep me company. I get lonely here, Ma. I didn't think it was a problem. You didn't think it was a problem. Henry stepped forward. What's his name? Kenneth, sir. His name is Kenneth. Kenneth who? Where does he live? What does he do? Blessing looked at the floor. I don't know his full name, sir. We're just dating. Maureen felt like she couldn't breathe. This woman, this person they had trusted with their children, had been bringing a man she barely knew into their home. A man whose full name she didn't even know. Get out, Maureen whispered. Ma, please. Get out of my house right now. But Blessing didn't leave. Not yet. Because Maureen had one more question that needed answering. Before you go, I need to know, how many times has this Kenneth been in my house? Direct addressee. What Blessing said next, it made Maureen realize that what she had discovered was just the tip of the iceberg. Blessing stood there, tears still running down her face, and she said, many times, Ma. I don't know exactly. Maybe 20 times. 30 times. This man whose full name she didn't even know, had been in that house with those children 30 times. But the nightmare was just beginning. Because what Maureen did next, the decision she made in that moment, led to a discovery that would change everything. She called the police. And when the police ran a background check on Kenneth, this boyfriend, this frequent visitor, this man who had been eating Indomie with her children, they found something that made every parent's worst nightmare look like a pleasant dream. But before I tell you what they found, let me share with you the ancient folktale that predicted this exact situation over 200 years ago. Because our ancestors knew. They knew this would happen. And they tried to warn us. In the old Igbo kingdoms, long before Nigeria as we know it today existed, there was a wealthy palm wine tapper named Mr. Peter. Mr. Peter was blessed. He had large plots of land, many palm trees, and a thriving trade business. But his greatest treasure was his daughter, Precious, who had just turned 12, the age when she would soon be ready for marriage preparation and needed proper guidance. Mr. Peter's problem was simple: his work required him to travel. Sometimes to neighboring villages for 3, 4, 5 days at a time. His wife had passed away during childbirth, so he had no one to watch Precious while he was gone. He hired a woman named Mary. She was from a good family, known in the village, and had raised children before. The elders vouched for her. "Your daughter will be safe with me," Mary promised. "I will guard her like my own." For the first several months, everything was fine. Mr. Peter would return from his travels to find Precious well-fed, well-dressed, and happy. Mary kept the compound clean, prepared meals, and taught Precious the domestic skills she would need as a wife. Mr. Peter was satisfied. He paid Mary well and praised her work. But what Mr. Peter didn't know, what he couldn't know because he was never there to see, was that Mary had a secret. She had a lover. A man named Solomon from a rival village. And not just any man, Solomon was known throughout the region as a troublemaker. He drank palm wine all day, he gambled, he had been involved in land disputes and fights. But Mary didn't care about his reputation. She was lonely. And when Mr. Peter traveled, Solomon would come to visit. At first, he would only come briefly. An hour here, an hour there. Mary would make him food, they would talk, and he would leave before it got dark. But as weeks turned into months, Solomon became bolder. He started staying longer. Then he started sleeping over. Then he started treating Mr. Peter's compound as if it were his own home. He would sit on Mr. Peter's mat, drink Mr. Peter's palm wine, eat Mr. Peter's food. Young Precious saw everything. She was uncomfortable. She didn't like Solomon. Something about him felt wrong. The way he looked at their belongings. The way he spoke too loudly. The way he moved through the compound as if he owned it. One day, when Mr. Peter returned from his travels, Precious tried to tell him, "Father, there is a man who comes when you're gone." But before she could finish, Mary interrupted smoothly. "She's talking about my brother, sir. He comes sometimes to help me with heavy work, carrying water, chopping firewood. I hope that's acceptable." Mr. Peter looked at Precious, then at Mary. Mary's face was innocent, open, respectful. "Is that true, Precious? Is it Mary's brother who helps with chores?" Precious looked at Mary. Mary's eyes sent a clear message: choose your words carefully. Precious was just a child. She was afraid of making Mary angry. So she nodded slowly. "Yes, Father. He helps with chores." Mr. Peter accepted this explanation. After all, it made sense. Mary was a woman alone with his daughter. Of course a brother might visit to help with heavy work. What could be wrong with that? But Solomon wasn't Mary's brother. And his visit had nothing to do with helping. Over the following weeks, Solomon came more frequently. And each time, he paid closer attention to Mr. Peter's compound. He noticed where valuables were stored. He learned the routines. He studied the layout of the buildings. He was planning something. One night, when Mr. Peter was away on a particularly long journey, Solomon came to the compound with 3 other men. They were his accomplices, thieves and troublemakers, all of them. Solomon had told them everything. How wealthy Mr. Peter was. Where he kept his cowries and trade goods. Mary's brother was actually her lover. And he had been using his access to Mr. Peter's home to plan a robbery. He had brought criminals into the compound because Mary had given him the freedom to come and go as he pleased. Mr. Peter was devastated. Not just because his property was stolen, but because his daughter, his precious daughter, had been put in danger by someone he had trusted. The village elders gathered and created a new proverb that day. They said, when you give someone the key to your home, you give them the key to bring in whoever they trust. And if you don't know who they trust, you have already invited danger inside. Centuries later, that proverb still holds true. Back to Lagos. The police ran a background check on Kenneth. Turns out, Kenneth had been arrested twice before. Once for assault. Once for breaking and entering. He had no steady job. No permanent address. He was using Blessing's employment to gain access to homes in Lekki and Oja. In one case, a woman had been robbed weeks after firing a housemaid who happened to be close friends with Blessing. It was all connected. When the police questioned Kenneth, he denied everything. But they found photos of Maureen's living room, her children, and the layout of her house on his phone. He had been scouting, studying, preparing. If Favor hadn't spoken up when she did, no one knows what could have happened next. Lessons. Maureen learned 3 painful lessons that day. 1. Never assume loyalty. 2. Children notice more than we think. And 3. The most dangerous people are the ones who seem the most harmless. So let me ask you this, mother to mother, parent to parent. Do you really know who's in your home when you're not there? Or are you, like Maureen once was, trusting too easily? Because sometimes, protection doesn't mean locking the doors. It means paying attention. Maureen told me something when we talked. She said, I keep thinking about all the times I almost didn't listen. When Favor first mentioned the uncle, I almost told her she was imagining things. When I asked Blessing and she denied it, I almost just let it go. I was so close to ignoring all the signs because it was easier than dealing with confrontation. She said, I was so worried about being a nice employer, about not seeming controlling or suspicious, that I almost sacrificed my children's safety for the comfort of being polite. Don't sacrifice your children's safety to be polite. Don't sacrifice their security to avoid conflict. Don't sacrifice their protection for convenience. Your children cannot defend themselves. They cannot run background checks. They cannot set boundaries with adults. That's your job. And nobody can do it for you. Kenneth was arrested 2 days later. It happened quietly. No chase. No struggle. The police picked him up from a small apartment in Oja, the same place where he had been hiding since the night Maureen called the authorities. At first, he denied everything. He said he was innocent, that he was just visiting his girlfriend. That the photos on his phone meant nothing. But when the police laid everything out in front of him, the pictures of Maureen's children, the floor plan of the living room, the text messages between him and Blessing saying, the lies began to crumble. After 3 hours of questioning, he finally confessed. And what he said next made every parent in that room go silent. Kenneth admitted he wasn't just visiting Blessing. He had been studying the house, observing the family's routine, watching when they left, when they returned, and how long the house stayed empty. He said the goal was simple at first, to steal. But then, he said something that made even the police officers shift uncomfortably in their seats. He confessed that the plan had changed. He and his friends had started discussing something darker. Kidnapping the children. His words were chilling. The woman they get money. If we carry one of the pikin, she go pay quick. I no do am yet because chance never come, but we don't plan am. That single sentence shattered Maureen's world. Because she realized, this man had been inside her house more than 20 times. He had eaten her food, sat on her sofa, smiled at her children. And all the while, he had been planning something unthinkable. The police later discovered that Kenneth had a record. 2 previous arrests, one for burglary, one for assault. He was already known to them. And worse, he wasn't acting alone. They found voice notes on his phone, recordings of him and other men discussing the targets in Lekki and Oja. Blessing had been the insider. The one who opened the doors. The one who made it easy. Maureen listened to all of this from the corner of the interrogation room. Her hands trembled. Not just from fear, but from disbelief. Because this wasn't just betrayal, it was premeditated danger. Right inside her home. The inspector later told her something that stuck with her forever. He said, "Madam, in Lagos, the people you pay are sometimes the same people giving robbers directions to your house." That night, Maureen couldn't sleep. She sat in her living room, staring at the empty space where her children usually played. Her mind replayed every moment, every small warning she had ignored. The times her daughter spoke up. The way Blessing's smile had seemed too easy. The time she brushed away her own instincts because she didn't want to seem paranoid. She whispered to herself, "It almost happened. I almost lost them." And that's when she learned her final lesson, the one that every parent must hear. Sometimes, danger doesn't break into your house. Sometimes, you hire it. It walks through your door, calls you more, and smiles politely while planning your downfall. Maureen's story is a warning to every parent. Trust is good, but verification is better. Ask questions. Listen to your children. Pay attention to small details. Because the devil doesn't always come with horns, sometimes, it wears a housemaid's uniform. Maureen's vigilance saved her family. But not every parent gets that second chance. So, mother to mother, father to father. If you leave your children in someone else's care, don't just trust. Watch. Don't just listen. Investigate. And never, ever ignore the small signs. Because your children's safety will always be worth more than anyone's feelings. If this story moved you, don't just scroll away. Do 3 things right now. Like this video. So YouTube knows this is a story every parent needs to hear. Share it, send it to your family, your friends, your parenting groups. You might save a life without even knowing it. Subscribe and turn on notifications. Because every week, I'll share another true story, inspired by real events and African wisdom, to keep your family safe. This is The Vigilant Parent. Protecting families. One story at a time.